Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achit. The Operation Sindhu taught us a lot of lessons. And as a matter of fact, I have with me someone who can explain those lessons to us. Tactically, we were brilliant. Operationally, we were brilliant. Indian Armed Forces were brilliant. There was one place where we could have done better, and that place is narratives. We will talk about that with Lieutenant General VG Kandare, and I'm sure you guys all recognize Sir. Sir was the principal advisor to the Ministry of Defense till very recently. I believe the 16th of May. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and Jai Hind to all your audience, listeners, and well-wishers.
So, sir, firstly, thank you so much for doing what all of you did during these operations. It really held, India in a different light, India in a different step within the country. And of course, abroad, people who seriously watched, they understood. But, sir, would you agree that we could have done our positioning a bit better in the sense the communication, the narratives, I won't call it, narrative attacks or anything like that, but just putting out information a little better?
Everything is relative. So obviously,
Sure.
when we had this kind of a conflict, so conflict, kinetic and non-kinetic, I think kinetically, militarily, it was just brilliant. Short, fast, intense, getting the adversary to the knees and exiting the way you wanted to, so that you don't get stuck in a long drawn conflict the way Russia or Ukraine or Israel is stuck. So we did whatever we had to. We had very clear objectives, and Adi, military objectives, military aims are very clearly defined. Once achieved, you just get out of it, and then you leave the rest of it to the rest of the nation. When I say rest of the nation, uh, this business of information space, it is not military space. It is not military combat space. So it is a whole of nation approach, whole of government approach, and specifically, if I say, it is also not purely a government job. It is all of us. So I think where we need to now introspect, whatever has happened is fine, but what we need to learn, every time we learn something. So what we have learned this time is you are pitted against an adversary who excels in lying through his teeth. Your military victory is projected as their victory, and to crown that, you suddenly have somebody being made a field marshal, because that is the ultimate sign of a victory in Pakistan. So I think what we have to now start looking as a nation, I'm not talking as a military, but as a nation, that you have an adversary, uh, what we simply would say झूठा है एकदम हर तरह से. He would uh, deny his own defeat, project it as his own victory. So here what we have to understand is the Pakistan masses, that is the people, and the Pakistan leadership. Now, in leadership, very clearly, three pillars of their leadership who excel in this narrative business, that is their military, ISI, and their clerics.
Mm.
These people spin a web of narratives, push them through the madrasas, through the masjids, through the social media, through ISPR. They use everything possible. Usme wahan, there is nothing known as a media censorship. There is nothing known as holding back anything. You listen to the podcast that we are able to access, and you listen to the reel or see the reels which people are talking of, and you have a common man on the street who has no idea what has happened, but he says that all four wars they have won,
Yep.
including 1971, including Kargil, and the present one also. So yeah, this is, and I may be taking a little longer in this with your permission.
Please, sir.
This they, I think, have learned from the Chinese three warfare strategy. उसमें three warfare strategy में there are three pillars. One is the legal, we leave that aside. There are two which are peculiarly public opinion and psychological warfare. Now, when you talk of public warfare, public opinion and psychological warfare, public opinion is meant to mold the internal masses, the public there, so that at no stage there is loss of face of the leadership. At no stage they have a doubt that they have won or they have lost. And psychological warfare is for the external audience. I
Sound
think the Chinese Communist Party excels in it because their entire survival is based on their own public,
Hmm.
and that is what they have taught the Pakistanis very well. So I think we need to take a leaf out of even our adversaries.
So when we also have a situation like this, when we see this happening, although the internal audience in India is more or less, not more or less, I think I would say 99.99% behind the forces. Everybody believes it, regardless of political lines. Of course, political lines are drawn up later and all that, and we won't get into that. That creates a lot of tamasha as well. But so, one of the things that we are seeing right now, and is that the way an operation, for example, when you look at the Israel Iran issue or the Americans hitting the Iranians, the way that the information was put out, fatafat, is that okay, we dropped this, we did this, we went from here, we flew from here, we did this, tuck, 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 they put everything out. Uh, a lot of negative propaganda or a lot of nonsense that is generated, for example, in some Pakistani accounts, started playing around with the game that Indian airspace was used during these strikes. And it came out to be such a thing that PIB fact check had to come out and say, no, nothing of the sort. So they had to put it out. So these are like, I find them to be worms, that they just leave all over the place, and whichever worm kind of picks up, they go ahead and kind of double down on it. Uh, how do we counter this? Because the CDS also said 15% of the armed forces time was spent on doing, narrative and information warfare, or basically busting propaganda.
See, in the new age warfare, information is extremely important. It was important earlier also. But now, with the kind of digital outreach and the digital penetration, the expanse and the depth of your reach, of your narrative, or somebody else's narrative is massive. And this is the cognitive domain where even a little bit of a disinformation or misinformation, it can make a lot of difference. So when you mention about what the United States or others do, or what somebody in between plants and information, so this will happen. This is a part of the information battle space where somebody or the other will either be there because the adversary is not there. So assume that we are fighting a kinetic battle, and the non-kinetic part of it is left to somebody else. In some of the countries, what they have as an equivalent of a cabinet committee on security, they also have the Minister of Information and Broadcasting in that. Why do they have such a person? They have such a person for a simple reason, that while the plan or other things are being made, this person is gearing up his entire mechanism so as to what is to be given and what is not to be allowed to be floating around on the digital platforms. So I think while it is very nice to possibly defend what we are doing or whatever, but I think we need to look forward. We have to look ahead. What can we do? What should we do? Otherwise, if you have the military doing something and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting doing catch up, there's no time for this now. You have to be really fleet footed to explain.
Yeah.
And a few people like you will do fact check, others won't.
Hmm.
Everyone is
Hmm.
not bound to do a fact check. Maybe like what you said, 99.99% are with the military. All good citizens will be like that, because you expect every citizen to trust what your military is doing, and you back them up. Now this
Yeah.
is actually again on the lighter side. Your adversaries masses back up their military even in their failure. So I think at least when you're winning, you should be able to back up your military, no?
Yeah, and especially when it wins all the time. So that's something which is very interesting.